Welcome back to another video, guys. Today is Tuesday, February 24th, and today there will be a Champions League, a few Champions League games, and then tomorrow there will be more Champions League games. These are the second leg of the Champions League, so there's going to be eliminations. There's going to be teams that go home. There's going to be teams that stay and go on to the next rounds. But today, I wanted to talk about one team that's going to play tomorrow, and it's Real Madrid. But what I wanted to talk about, not so much about the Benfica game. I'm not really sure how that game is going to go down, but I have a feeling Real Madrid is going to win it. That's not a problem. What I wanted to talk about today is the downfall. The downfall of Real Madrid. And it's not much of a downfall because the season is still alive for them in La Liga, even though they gave up the first place spot after having it for only 1 week. And then they're still in the Champions League. They're more than likely going to go through to the next round. And then not only that, they have some of the greatest players in all of world football. So it's not a huge downfall, but the downfall of being regarded as undisputed best team in the world, best team in Europe, Champions League winners, serial winners of the Champions League. And now they're kind of like a little bit embarrassing, a little bit of kind of a sad story because for some reason, for some odd reason, having gotten even better players and they're not getting it done. So today I wanted to analyze why that is. And we must not look further than their two last Champions League title victories. And I wanted to look at this, Real Madrid versus Liverpool, and I wanted to take a look at how they were lining up for these games. Real Madrid comes from this side right here against PSG, 2-3. Let's look at the lineups for these games because let's see how much has changed since this is the 2022 campaign. Look at that. Versus Mbappe, Di Maria, and Messi. And here you had Asensio, who's no longer there. Modric, Casemiro, Cruz. Okay, so you had the OG midfield. Right there, this tells you everything you need to know. Carvajal, who had a really inspiring Champions League run. This one and the 2024 one as well. Militao, who's continues to be injured. Courtois still there. Mendy continues to be injured. And Alaba is kind of in and out of the lineup, pretty much retired. Asensio eventually goes to PSG later on. I don't know where he's at now exactly. He might be either in Turkey or Saudi Arabia, very possibly. Benzema obviously in Saudi Arabia, and then Vini stays. So this was the first leg of the first round of knockouts. Just to give you an example of what it looked like, let's go to the Chelsea game. Let's go to the one that they won in their lineup. So now you have Valverde as a right winger. Interesting. Very interesting because where are you going to fit Valverde in this three-man midfield? You're not. And it's something that I continue to say. Valverde is better on the wing than he is in the midfield. In the midfield, he offers a lot when it comes to physical presence. He offers a lot when it comes to defending and recovering the ball. But when it comes to creative and tempo midfield, it's not Valverde. It's not. And here you see it. Right wing Valverde, left wing Vini, and Benzema at the striker. Something that Real Madrid continues to need. A striker. So interesting to see. And then the same lineup, the same defensive lineup, all five defensive players. Well, attacking as well. Instead of Asensio, you have Valverde here. Interesting. Nothing that they've done ever again, Real Madrid, or not ever again, but they rarely do it. Let's see this lineup for the Man City game, the one that determined everything. Vini, Benzema, Valverde, the three midfielders. Nacho instead of Alaba. But basically, same lineup. Carvajal, Mendy. Okay, so these are all players that, at least in the defense, almost every player except for Nacho, it's all players that are still there. Granted, this was 21-22. We're in 25-26. You know, we're talking about 4 years later. And in 4 years, a veteran player becomes an old player, a semi-retired player. But as you see, Valverde on the wing again. And then I wanted to see the final, which I have a feeling it's going to be basically the same lineup. The final was Militao, Alaba. There you have it. 2 players that remain on the squad. 4 players that remain on the squad. 2 of which are constantly injured. unfortunately, because Militao is a great, great defender, and he might miss the World Cup for Brazil. World Cup that I think Brazil is going to end up winning. And you have Carvajal, who's already basically semi-retired. Alaba too. Mendy's always injured as well. But you have it here. The midfield trio that won 3 Champions Leagues in a row, 4 out of 5, and then came back and did it again in 2022. Very impressive. And same thing, Valverde, Benzema, Vini. You substituted Benzema for Mbappe, and it's not working for some reason. You know? And then obviously, you don't have any of these 3 monsters. Recovery midfielder, tempo midfielder, creative midfielder, which both of them can kind of be tempo and creative. You're talking about 2 of the best midfielders doing 2 of the best midfield jobs, and now Real Madrid does not have one midfielder that's anything like any of these 3 guys. The closest you could say is, now that would be an insult to Casemiro to say Tchouaméni is close to him. He is in the sense that defensively and recovery-wise, Tchouaméni is a great CDM, but nothing more than that. So that's interesting to see. Now let's move to the 2023-2024 that Real Madrid wins. This one, in my opinion. Now, okay, wait. Let's go back to 21-22. This Champions League run right here by Real Madrid, and I'm a huge Real Madrid hater. I'm a Barca fan, so you know it from here. But this is the single best Champions League run that I've ever seen in my life. And I started watching Champions League around 2009, around that time. So there's a lot that I'm missing, obviously. But since 2009 to this, the single best Champions League run was this one. It felt like a World Cup. It felt like every time Real Madrid was down, they'd come back. Every time Real Madrid was, close to winning, they'd get close to losing, and they'd end up winning anyway. Same here. They lost the first leg, won the second leg. And I want to just look at these stats before we continue. 24 total shots to 4 total shots, 9 on target to 2, and Real Madrid wins the game 1-0. 24-4. You're telling me with 20 more shots, Liverpool could still not make a goal. And Real Madrid with 20 less shots, only 2 on target, and one of them is a goal. And you win a Champions League final. I remember Courtois' performance in this final was amazing. Keeper saves, 9. 0 keeper saves by, who was the starting? I'm guessing it's Alisson, right? Yeah, Alisson. Crazy. With Salah, Mane, Luis Diaz. Damn, Luis Diaz was there already. Forgot about that. Thiago, Fabinho, Henderson. Look at this team, man. Trent, still in Liverpool, obviously. Look at this team, bro. Damn, I didn't know that. I thought it was Firmino. I mean, Firmino might have been on the bench, right? Yeah, there he is. But I didn't know Luis Diaz played this final. That's crazy. Okay. So there you have it, man. Massively impressive. This was a crazy run. This one, however, in my opinion, I might get called a hater, but in my opinion, this Champions League that Real Madrid wins, they only win it because there was nobody better than them. And I know that sounds like a stupid, redundant thing to say, but think about it for a second. It's not that Real Madrid was a good team, it's that there was no one better than them. I think if this same Real Madrid team played the last 10 Champions Leagues, I don't think they would have won any of them. To be fair, they still had Kroos, they still had Modric. Let's look at it. Actually, let's take it back here. Right here. Red Bull. Only a 2-1 aggregate. See what I mean? Like, this is not the best Real Madrid team in all of history. They got it done because they got it done. Look at that. Almost still in Leipzig. Lunin. This was Lunin's Champions League. That's true. Rudiger, Nacho's no longer there. Rudiger struggling with injuries and stuff like that. He's recently come back. Vini, Bellingham, Valverde on the right wing. So pretty much like a 4-4-2 kind of, or maybe a 4-5-1 if you want. Bellingham, a creative midfielder. 2. It's strange. So you have like two defensive midfielders. Cruz kind of manages the tempo. He's not super defensive, but at his age, he was probably more deep lying, right? Camavinga, just a recovery guy. Valverde on the wing, explosive. Vinny, of course. And Bellingham as the striker, quote unquote. So with this team, they won a Champions League. What's the difference between now? Yeah, Bellingham has been injured, but when he was there, it's not like there was much of a difference. Are we really thinking that just one midfield player was the difference between this team being good and this team being bad? Or is it Mbappe? The fact that you now have two players in Vinny and Mbappe that won't defend, that all the goals have to go through one of those two players. Obviously, this being Mbappe. Could be that as well. Let's continue. So Real Madrid, the 4-4, I remember this. 3-3 and the 1-1, they go to penalties. Let's look at the 3-3 really quick. The lineup. Toni Kroos, Camavinga, Rodrigo, and Vinny on the same wing. I remember they got it done like that. Bellingham, Valverde. Obviously, these guys would shift. This guy would shift over here. This was a 3 midfield partnership with the 3 attackers. Mendy, Rudiger, Tchouaméni on defense. Wow. And Carvajal. Tchouaméni on defense. And they were able to beat this team. I mean, they were able to defend against this team, I guess, because they didn't beat them. They went to penalties. But they were able to compete, and they were able to defend. This game was the quote-unquote controversial game. There's always one for Real Madrid in any single run of the Champions League. And this was the controversial one. They called a goal offsides. Let's look at the lineups really quick. Vinny, Rodrigo, Bellingham, Kroos, Tchouaméni, Valverde. So 4 midfielders, 4-4-2. Nacho with Rudiger. Do you think, this is a side question, is this 34 years of age now, or let me see, do I know any of these guys' age right now? Let's see, Bellingham. 20 at the time, and Bellingham's probably 22 now. So this is updated. So you're talking about 34. He would be 36 now. Do you think Real Madrid is missing a player like Nacho? You think that could have maybe been the difference? Obviously, it's Kroos is one of them, and Mbappe being in the lineup is another. But at the same time, what is Mbappe to Rodrigo, you know? Or what is Rodrigo to Mbappe, rather? Mbappe is infinite times better than Rodrigo. It should still work. Is it really just one player, that Toni Kroos player? It's interesting. Mendy, probably a lot better than Fran Garcia. Probably a little bit better than Carreras, although I think Carreras is doing a great job in Real Madrid right now. And then let's look at the final really quick. The lineup for the final. Rodrigo, Vinny, Bellingham, that false 9. These 3 midfielders. No Tchouaméni. Was he on the bench or something? He was on the bench. Didn't play the final. Interesting. I think he might have been slightly injured, though, if I'm not mistaken. Rudiger, Nacho. Carvajal, Mendy. Mendy played the entire series. That's crazy. The entire Champions League campaign. And we haven't seen him since. And these 3 midfielders. Kroos with an assist. Bellingham with an assist. Those are 2 players that Real Madrid don't have this season. Rodrigo's been injured. Vinny with a goal. It was just 1-0? No, 2-0. Who else scored? Oh, Carvajal. That's right. Carvajal. So there you go, man. And now I want to look at this year's Champions League. Where we are now in the knockout. We're looking at Real Madrid, which is over here. This first leg lineup. Mbappe. You know, you're talking about a team that has basically won it all, and they inject their team with Mbappe. Oh, look, Atleti's winning right now. Oh, they're playing already. Oh, wow, I'm missing. I thought they were playing at 3. All right, well, I'm going to start watching that in a little while. So yeah, to finish this off, so I can watch that game, Mbappe, you inject Mbappe to a Champions League winning team, and you would think they would do a little bit better. And they haven't. They've gone actually trophyless with the exception of that Super Cup that they win because of winning that Champions League the year before. They beat Atalanta in the Super Cup. Mbappe, I think, gets 1 or 2 goals. And I think it's a 3-0. Something like that. And that's the last trophy they've ever won. Guler, yeah, you know, it's not Toni Kroos. Tchouaméni, Camavinga, Valverde, same thing, right? Housen is not Nacho. With the experience that Nacho had, Housen is not him. Rudiger, no Militao, obviously. You're talking about Rudiger, Militao is a different story. Carreras, not Mendy, but Carreras, like I said, is pretty good. Courtois is back. They have Trent, which maybe defensively and maybe character-wise is not Carvajal. But when it comes to technical ability and athleticism, I think Trent clears Carvajal. So you would think. Now, the other thing is Ancelotti versus Xabi Alonso / Arbeloa. It's a different story, right? I wonder if Ancelotti with this team could get it done. You know, not having to be forced to play the 4-3-3 with Rodrigo on top as well, with Bellingham. Like if you gave him this injured Real Madrid squad, would they be doing better than what they're doing now? It's a good question. I think they would. I think Ancelotti's a huge reason why Real Madrid's not working. But then again, he went trophyless the last year he coached with Mbappe, with Bellingham, with Rodrigo, with Vinny, without Toni Kroos. Are we really thinking that Toni Kroos is the reason? Well, yeah, because like we said, the midfield is a disaster in Real Madrid. But at the same time, you're talking about one player. What about the rest of them? You know, it's one player, and we're not talking about a transcendental player like Diego Maradona or Messi or Cristiano Ronaldo. We're talking about equally legendary player, Toni Kroos, but at the same time, it's not like this guy was dribbling 5-6 people and scoring 3 goals a game. Yeah, maybe he was serving you up 3 goals a game. But I don't know, dude. I think one player missing, and this player, which is possibly the best player in the world right now, injected into the squad, you would think that not much would change. So it's interesting. Guys, get me in the comments. What do you think the result tomorrow? Real Madrid. Oh, look. Brugge scored. I knew it, man. Every time I notice that a game's going on, there's a goal. Club Brugge scored. Remember, my prediction is that Brugge is going to win. So let's see how that goes. That's crazy. I'm going to start watching that game. But anyway, get me in the comments, guys. What do you think the Benfica-Real Madrid game is going to be? The final score is going to be, I think, is a 2-0 or maybe a 2-1. Real Madrid goes through. And get me in the comments also of why you think Real Madrid is not the same team despite winning 2 of the last 4 Champions Leagues. So I'll catch you in the comments. Remember to subscribe, like the video, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.